I call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Northfield Public School Board. Today is Monday, May 11th, and the time is 6 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. The recording of this meeting will be posted on the district website as soon as possible. Welcome members of the community here tonight to observe the important work being done on behalf of all school district stakeholders. Dr. Hillman, we have some items in the table file. Will you update us?
Yes, we have many items in the table file this evening because it's hiring time for summer programs, and so we have quite a few appointments. We have a number of increase, decrease, and changes in assignment. We have a few leaves of absences, and we have 2 resignations. That's what we have in the table file this evening.
Okay. If there are no objections, we will add these items to the agenda as we move forward. All right, board members, please make sure your microphone is on when you vote. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Moved by Ben. Okay, second?
Second.
Second by Maggie. Were you putting forward that motion? Or okay,
And adjusting my mic at the same time.
got it. Thank you.
Very efficient.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. We do not have public comment this evening, meaning that nobody signed up. And then item 4 is our announcements and recognitions.
Yes, we have several this evening. So we want to congratulate Ella Welp, a sophomore at Northfield High School who recently submitted her self-portrait acrylic painting to the 2026 Congressional Art Competition. And Congresswoman Angie Craig called Ella directly to tell her that she won first place. So Ella's painting will be on display at the United States Capitol Building in Washington, D.C. for the next 11 months, and she will fly to D.C. this coming summer to celebrate the honoring of her and other winners from across the United States. So congratulations to Ella, very prestigious. We want to congratulate Northfield High School wrestlers Callie Graber, Caden Staub, and Zane Engels, who all earned first-team academic All-State from the Minnesota Wrestling Coaches Association. We also want to congratulate Northfield High School 9th grader Audrey Breen, who earned the rare honor of performing on a violin from the Violins of Hope collection at the Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphony's Spring Concert on May 10th at Orchestra Hall. The instrument she played belonged to Sandor Fischer, a Romanian-born musician who brought his violin to a Nazi forced labor camp during the Holocaust. Selected through an essay competition, Audrey extended her commitment beyond the concert hall by bringing the historic violin to Northfield, sharing its story with her orchestra classmates. So that's quite a special thing to get to participate in the Violins of Hope collection. So we congratulate all of those folks, and I'm sure we'll have more at the next meeting. It's that time of the year.
All right, thank you. Item 5 is items for discussion and reports. And first up, we have Sherry Allen with Teamworks, who will be here to present the demographic study of the Northfield Public School District, which was completed January 2026. Welcome.
Thank you, Board Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hillman. I'm very honored to be here to go through this. I'm going to take you through a very high level, and then I'll just be anxious to take all your questions in a good way. So I've been told you love to look through your board packets and you actively participate, so I'm looking forward to it. So thank you. First of all, we have many findings through this, and I'll do a summative report. I'm not going to go through page by page, just so that we can get the highlights. Probably the first thing that that's very important for you to understand is that there's 2 sections to this report. You may have noticed that. The first section is the analysis of the district and the overall demographic enrollment and housing trends as of January 26, and also student trends reflecting the 2025 enrollment. And so when you think about this, the second section, and that is found on pages 6 through 40, different maps for you and demographics. The second section of the report reflects estimated market share, new housing construction, enrollment projects for the next 10 years, so it's projections for you. And this information is found on pages 41 to 59. In section 1, the overall demographic patterns in and around neighborhoods that comprise your whole district. And the demographic information presented is population, race, and ethnicity, age data collected through the 2020 census, which is so important for you to realize that, as well as historical resident birth data, which we get that from the Minnesota Department of Health. We also, as we work through our data, we look at sources of data that are estimated current, 5-year projection data from your district. We get that from your district, we get city, we get county, IRS, and we work through multiple data points to align that work and analyze it for you. Section 2 examines the impact of the market share and future housing developments for you, which there's always a variable there, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and the 10-year enrollment projections across the district. Any questions on anything from that? Just on those 2 sections? Okay, we're going to roll. I will do the next couple pages because it is our summative information, which I believe is the most helpful for your community and also for you to think about. Demographic, the district-wide overall demographics. When you look at that in 2025, sometimes this throws people off. It's the residing population residing within the boundaries of your school district, and that is 30,164. Between the years 2010 and 25, your total population across the district grew by 8.4% from 27,815 to 30,164. I want you to know that's a nice number, overall growth. Many districts in the state of Minnesota, I can say that as I do this work, they're not seeing that type of growth. Now, the question is, what does that mean for you as a school district, right? The total population of 0 to 4-year-olds, you did decline 12.5% from 1493 to 1307. You're looking at by 2030, though, you're projected to grow about 0.6%. When you look at where you're at right now. So that's to 1,315. Since 2010, the total population of 5 to 14-year-olds has declined 9.2%. By 2030, 5 to 14-year-olds are projected to decline by 5.5%, as you can see. Between school year 2010 and 11 to 2024-25, your resident births, that is the place where you're down, declined 23.9% from 261 to 199. Not uncommon what you're seeing in the state of Minnesota. Resident births have increased 1.5% since school year 2011-12, rising from 196 to 199. Keep in mind, when you look at 2017 in your report, you'll see where your enrollment started to decline. You might be going back up a little bit, but not to the levels that you were in that time. The decline in resident births post-COVID, we put that in there from 21 to 24, is expected to affect future enrollment, resulting in a progressively smaller kindergarten. And also corresponding is remaining uncertain whether the apparent rebound in births that you did experience in 2014, you had a little bit of 15, you had a bump there, if it will be sustained over time. That's the question. District-wide housing trends, you have a strong single house, single home family, 78% of housing types. Your average market value here is $420,887, which is higher than what we will see in districts your size and other places in the state. Approximately 10% have been built since 2010. Also, since 2020, over 2,000 homes have been sold in the district with the average sale price of $376,627, and 75.3% of your resident students live in single-family homes. So for you, what does that mean as far as your trends? When you look at your socioeconomics, you can see your different student groups there. You can see in each group, you have a strong percentage, some that has had growth and some that have stayed pretty much the same. 19.7% of your students receive special ed services. 28% of students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. 5.9% of students are ELL learners, And also the median income for student families is $99,926. So what does that mean historically when you look at student enrollment trends? Since 2010-11, overall, your K-12 student enrollment has declined 1.7%. You can see then there your elementary, middle, and high school where you are at. In 2010-11, the overall average for K-12 survival cohort was 103%. I'm going to talk about that just for a second. So that means if they start with you, they stay with you. And when you look at that, that is very high. You are retaining your students. They may come at different times. So you might have a kindergarten class that starts at 100, but by the time they're fifth grade, moving into sixth grade, they might be 125. So when you say, how can you be over 100%, that's how you can. You have people that move in, sure, you have people move out, but you also have open enrollment. The other thing that the historical pieces with utilization, congratulations, you can, in my opinion, you can see that you've really done some nice planning with your facilities. You don't, trust me, I lived it. You do not want to be 95% and higher with numbers of students and staff in a building. You have no flexibility and no space. So you can see that, I mean, that's very strong. It's a nice spot to be, because if you do grow possibly of 1.8%, as this report shows, you will have some space. And also 13.1% of K-12 students that are enrolled in the Northfield Public Schools are non-residents. So you have a nice balance there as well. Your enrollment trends, you do see a little bit of decline again with that birth rate and future development gains, depending on your development, with the potential of a 1.2% increase. Now, don't watch this too fast, because I'm going to go all the way to page 22. It can give you a headache. Before I go through this, Dr. Hillman had just asked me, I always like to ask the superintendent, is there anything you want me to really emphasize a little bit? And he asked me to do 22 and page 23. And many times, this is not uncommon. I smiled as I was talking to him. I was thinking to myself, yeah, that's where we need to go, because historical resident birth analysis, that's always where people think a little bit more detailed, like, well, I thought we were this, or I thought we were that. It's the total number of resident births across the district, and you can see from 2010-11 through 24-25, summarized by elementary attendance area. And for the purpose of this analysis, a school year is defined beginning of September 1 through August. So it's different than a fiscal year, but that's what we do within our reports. It's assumed that your students, the children, are born in a given school year and enter kindergarten within 6 years. That variable, you know, some enter 5, some enter 6. That's another moving target a little bit. And that when they do enter, the birth figures are reported based on elementary attendance boundaries and in effect during each respective year, okay? So when you look at this, you can see between school year 10-11 and 24-25, your total resident births had declined, and it shows in the table down below exactly what we're talking about. You can see like Bridgewater, where they started in 10-11, and then where you're ending and what that looks like. Resident births, when you increase, but yet you say you're decreasing, it's because of where you were before. And now you're starting to move up a little bit. You see that. You still see, however, the decline in resident births during the post-COVID years is expected to affect future enrollment, as we know, resulting in progressively smaller kindergarten cohorts in those corresponding years. It remains uncertain whether the apparent rebound in births observed in 14-15 will stand over time. And then this is the chart that shows you that. And then also, our surrounding school districts. It's always nice to see where you're at. Many of these districts we've worked in the same way as we're working with you. You can see the decreases between 2010-11 and 24-25, with the total number of resident births in surrounding districts declining 6.3%. And you can see it by district, and then it represents in the historical resident births in the graph below. Okay. At this point, I'm going to open it up to questions.
Okay, Corey?
Yes. Hi, Sherry. Thanks
Hi.
for being here.
Thank you.
I had a question back on, sorry, one of the earlier slides.
No, that's okay.
Just for clarification, I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly. So it says,
What page are you on?
sorry.
That's okay.
Page 3, key findings.
Go ahead and ask your question. I'll get there.
So it's 2 bullets I think are related. So resident births have increased 1.5% since school year 2011-12, rising from 196 to 199. The bullet ahead of it or above it says between school year 2010-11 and 24-25, total resident births declined 23.9% from 261 to 199. I guess I'm not following because if 2011-2012 was 196 and 2010-2011 was 261, we have that incremental increase over that time while clearly experiencing a decline.
Because you increased from where you were at your lowest, not where you were from your highest, which was in 2017-18.
Okay, and I understand the peak. I thought
Yep.
it was associated with that 1 year.
Thank you for that question. Great question.
All right, thank you.
I had Corey's question too, but I'm not still not sure I'm following the math. Walk me through it a little more. So we were at 196 in 2011, 2012,
Yep.
and then so what are we comparing to?
So when you go back, because this is a summative piece, when you go back in the graphs, if you look at 2017-18, you had the most students within your school district. You dropped then roughly 300 students to your lowest, which was what you're talking about in that first number. But from that number, you have had a slight increase, and that was in 14-15. So it's an overall comparison, not just those two numbers.
So the ranges are listed, but they're taking the
Yep.
peak for the decline.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. From your initial decline, now you have a little bit of a gradual increase. Now, the question is, will that continue?
Gotcha. I think. I'd have to see that.
Well, you know what, part of it is because I'm doing a summary. If you go back and look at all the trends, and I'm going to take you here at the end, I think the last graph will help you.
Gotcha.
If not, you need to ask another question.
Anyone else? Question or comment? Hey, Amy.
Just a question about the racial makeup. Did you look over time to see if there were changes in the racial makeup, or are you just giving us where we are now?
It was that snapshot as of January 26. Thank you. Just to show a little bit overall picture of the highlights that we talked about, here's your graph. This might help you a little bit if you look at the demographic housing and enrollment analysis. It shows you the total enrollment, then your projected enrollment. See how you went down and now you're starting to go back up, which a little bit of a dip, and then you're gonna maybe go up to 1.8%. Also, your facility usage, if you're looking at how you are using that, your developmental gains, and then also some of the spaces. So that could help you with some of that long analysis. So how do districts use this? I always say it's up to you. I use this as superintendent, and it was invaluable just for planning, as you know. Obviously, you've done some great planning. You can tell that with where you are with your facilities and also with your residents. So, any other questions? Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I hope you find this helpful.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Sherry. Dr. Hellman, did you want to add anything?
I think this is the last demographics that we did in 2022. I think if you compare, you see some similar things here. And I think one of the key parts is as we keep moving forward, having the data that we have here is going to help us continue to plan, right? In terms of, especially I think it's important to see where the depths could be in terms of the continued declining birth rate, but that there is also an upside in terms of if we realize the potential development that's available, we could, by 2030 or so, be able to have a small increase. And so I think this is helpful for us to be thinking through how we plan for the next several years, how we think about attrition, within our systems, how we continue to reach out and encourage people to attend Northfield Public Schools. As you know, we did that St. Olaf study that we're going to bring to you this spring in terms of you've all received it, about the resident students who are choosing another traditional public school district. We're continuing to look into other folks' choices between now and June 30th. We think that's going to be helpful. I think the other number that people should be really proud of is the retention, right? So for the vast majority of students, if once you enter the system, what the data says is you stay here. And I think that that's an important piece. We obviously look at open enrollment in and out, but once students are here, we know that they stay within the district. That's, I think, an important number for us to focus on. And how can we use that? How will we use this for our planning over the next several years? We're trying to right size and to adjust as we have that declining enrollment. Of course, even if you drop by 50 students in 1 year, they all don't necessarily leave one particular cohort. So that can make it difficult to adjust your overall expenses in a way that is a soft landing, if that makes sense. So I think there's a lot of data in here. It's a long report. Dr. Allen and I talked about a 15-minute presentation hitting the highlights. If you have further questions about it, TeamWorks is prepared to continue to support and help us as time goes on. But what this really does in my mind is it affirms what we had seen 4 or 5 years ago, and it gives us a fresh set of data as you continue to plan for the future.
Hey, Ben.
I did have one question, Dr. Hillman. I think previously, I think we used the metric of, was it 1.2 students per single family? How was it?
It was that number has changed quite a bit.
right.
What you've seen is that it was at one time it was above 1.
Right.
We're now down below 1 per single family house, and I think that that's the dilemma of the report. I think one of the things that if you really look into the, I would say the information behind the data is that we are not seeing people who, once their children leave the system, they are not selling their homes and having new families move. So you see this increase in housing, right? In some cases over the longer period of time, while still seeing the declining enrollment. And part of that is what we all know to be true, is that people just aren't selling their homes. There's a variety of reasons for that. And so we also know that things like townhomes and apartments, the average is 0.11 students per dwelling in those cases. So single family housing is really what's going to drive increased enrollment. But the homes in the community are just not turning over at a rate that is helpful for us. And I think it's also fair to say that the cost of housing here compared to similar communities, there's a difference there that could also play a role. But these are all things as we keep moving forward and planning for the future. Information like this is invaluable because it allows us to weigh in on other public policy pieces from a position of strength and information. Is that helpful?
It is, yeah. And I mean, it looks like in this, it went
0.6 or something like that.
0.36,
Yeah.
0.36, when with apartments at 0.48. So it's actually, apartments yield more now than single-family homes do, which is, I know, in flip from the last time that the study.
And it also is about the amount of inventory that's there.
Right, and probably affordability too. Right. So, yeah. But to your point, right, it helps us think about policy in a broader sense. Things that sit outside maybe the direct control of this board, but.
I agree with that, and I also think that it's important because as public servants, how you share this information in other circles is important. I think it validates the previous studies that we've seen, and I think it helps arm you with information to weigh in on other jurisdictions' decisions.
Yeah, so I guess then my kind of 3 top takeaways are one of them would be, not in any particular order, but fewer students per home or resident, certainly than we've seen in the past. A declining birth rate, but not necessarily the same proportional decline in enrollment, which I think speaks to the quality of the experience that people have.
I think that's fair.
Here, and a high retention rate sort of once people do enter the school system. So some silver linings in the in the demographic data.
And I also think that if you take a look at pages 22 and 23, one of the reasons I asked Dr. Allen to go through those was that you do see that we are really not alone, right? In terms of communities our size, you'll see the drop in birth rates, but you're also going to see places where there are significant housing development. For example, a suburb like Lakeville that we know has had so much growth that they recently, stopped, their housing development to just as a pause. But in places where, a place like that where there's been significant housing growth, you saw an increase in birth rate. You also see, I think it's tough when you're looking at places like Randolph where they increased 5.6% in real numbers, that's one student. Kenny-Wanamingo, right, they increased by 20%, but that's 11 students, right? So there's a little bit of a difference between the percentage and the raw number over time. But if you look at similarly, I think districts that we would often compare ourselves to, New Prague, Faribault, Farmington to a certain extent, you're seeing that similar piece across the board. So I think it is helpful to understand that broader context, both at how increased housing can, you say, well, how does that increase? Well, if you've got homes that people can get in that childbearing years, they're looking for those kinds of things. So interesting information that I think will be helpful to you as time goes on. And I think it's also interesting just to continue to keep track on that birth rate, right? Because I think that also could, for example, with Faribault, a school district where we have had a significant amount of open enrollment from, that drop in birth rate could also signal fewer students from Faribault, right? We've been stuck around that 300 number for some time. So I think there's a lot of information in here that can be very helpful as you think about, elementary schools and you think about just the pathway of students coming to school and staying and all of the decisions you're going to be making in the several years. This is good information to help support you.
You have one more?
You have one more, and then I'll cede to Corey. But
Jenny will be next.
just a question on facility utilization, because I know it looks like Bridgewater is fairly high in terms of comparatively, and I know some of the development that's proposed is within kind of the catchment area for Bridgewater. So could we, Dr. Allen, be in a situation where you might be over 100% utilization if we see some of the housing in that particular elementary area get built out?
I think a couple things. Great question. And it's not only built out, but then also what's closer there that possibly could turn over for new families. It's a combination. And I've worked with districts where they might have some declining and all of a sudden there's a housing development. Probably the biggest thing is when you're empty nesters, maybe people want to move into something that's a little more downsized and all of a sudden there's a townhouse development or something that happens and then that can flip. So I think I always say then that's when you start looking at boundaries and just seeing where you're at with your population as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Jenny, you had a question?
Yes, I have a question for Dr. Hillman, but I just wanted to say I think this might be a great item to present to City Council, especially the areas of the growth that we have in our buildings would be kind of an instrumental piece maybe for their decision making also. Or
And
maybe
we'll
not.
share it with them for sure.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
I mean, I'm not ordering you to, but
No, I mean, we try to, some of the data that Dr. Allen used is from the city, right? So we will often share these reports among other governmental jurisdictions.
Okay, and then my question, though, is do you have any idea if MDE will take in third-party reports like this for when we are applying for grants? And because I kind of looked through that process recently, and there's a lot of submittals and facts and reports that have to be submitted sometimes. And I'm just wondering if this could also be used there, or if they do not accept third-party information.
Yes, that's a good question. So I think it depends on what the grant is and what we're looking for. So this is a snapshot in time. And so like, for example, the demographic information about the percentage of ethnicity, for example, or special education or English learners, MDE updates that particular portion of the Minnesota report card every year. So when they release the MCA results, typically in August, you will also see those demographics change as well. So typically we point right to the MDE report card because that's the latest updated data. But in the past, we have shared data from other reports that were, by, to use your term, third party, third-party partners as part of grant applications because it depends on the grant application, of course, but we've used a number of things from HCI and some other groups in the past. What we know about that is it shows that partnerships, right, are something that often those grants really rely on for, you usually get more points. And so reports like this can demonstrate that you are with it, is what the term I'll use, and they can often be helpful.
It just seems like they're becoming more competitive, and I'm
Very
just
much
looking
so.
for more information that we can submit as possible to get us an upper hand.
One great suggestion is if you're looking at a Safe Routes to School grant, I know working with the city and using this report, many districts have used that. That's one example that I can think of. I did that myself, and it was very helpful. So yes, you can use some of this in different grants, but as you said, it depends on what they need for information.
But the good news is, I mean, it's got excellent information that, in the right hands, right, for some of these kinds of grants, whether they're MDE grants or other grants. Anytime that we have a treasure trove of information like this, we have been able to use it in our partnership with, specifically with HCI, to be able to leverage a number of different external funding sources over the years.
Thanks.
All right, Corey.
Dr. Allen, actually, I have a quick question. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Let you get a few steps in tonight.
That's all right.
For the K-12 survival cohort, can you remind me, is that for only students who enroll as kindergartners, or is that the starting point, or is it all births?
It's a starting point, but then as you grow, that survival, that's why you get over that 100% because students will come in.
Right, so
And that-
that starting number is based on the number of students who enroll as kindergartners, or it's based on births 5 years prior for that cohort?
Kindergartners.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard you say, and I
Yes.
think that
Yes.
makes sense given our.
Thanks for
quality.
clarifying that question. It's kindergartners.
And I think it lends to the next presentation too as well. We've got quality public school partners and school choice in this community, and we certainly see some of those students roll back into our schools. So I think it makes sense that all 3 levels are at 100% plus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudia, can I make one more? So I want to point out one more thing here around birth rates and just some other information you'll hear in the community. So you will probably heard on KYMN last week that Northfield Hospital and Clinics had well more than 700 births last year. And so if I'm a person who's listening, to the radio and I hear that, I think, well, problem solved, right? You've got 700. But we have to remember that these are different numbers because our numbers are resident births in our district. And remember that you have numerous hospitals within driving distance that are no longer maternity wards. Right? They're no longer providing services for people to birth children. And so you're having more and more people who are coming to Northfield from other communities. And so I just want people in the community and board members need to be able to help explain that our birth rate is going down even as Northfield Hospital and Clinics, the number of births goes up. And it's because they are becoming more of a regional birth center. I have asked Xander Abbott, the CEO of Northfield Hospital and Clinics, if we could include open enrollment paperwork when children are born. I was told that that's not possible, but we are doing some co-marketing with Northfield Hospital and Clinics. Our annual reports are going to be able to be seen in their hospital and clinic waiting rooms. So we have some real strategic work with Northfield Hospital and Clinics to be able to try to, once those children are born at the hospital, to say not only is Northfield a great place to have your baby, right, but it's a great place to have your child go to school.
Anyone else at this time? Amy.
Thanks for your presentation. I'm still trying to understand the survival cohort. So if we have 100 kids enter students in kindergarten,
Yes.
and is that just always based on that 100? If it goes to 102, then 90, or some kids go off to Prairie Creek, or they go off to Arcadia, so they're flowing out while other students are flowing in. So it's not actually individuals who are surviving, but it's the aggregate number.
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. It just sounds like people to me, but it's total people. Okay.
Right. Correct.
Thank you.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to item B, which is our Prairie Creek Community School contract renewal. This will be an item for individual action at the May 26th meeting. And presenting Daryl.
Hello. All right. So I have Simon's going to join, answer any questions if needed, but I'll run you through the process real quick, and then open up for any questions that you may have. So there is a process in our authorizing plan. And so that process starts with a letter of intent. And so Simon filed that letter of intent. Then that starts the renewal application process. So that's in your board packet. I'm not sure if it's in the order of when it was received, but the renewal application is the first thing that happens. And so then that is basically just collecting the evidence of why we should be renewed. And so there's, in there you'll see the chart that has all the evidence that's collected as to either solidifying the case that yes, we should enter a contract with this charter program, or no, we shouldn't. And so there's narratives, but then there's also that evidence collected. Then with that, what I do is go through the renewal rubric to see how strong they score, to see if it is something that we should pursue. They did score, no surprise, they did score very strong. And so then we started the process of renewing the contract. So the contract can go up to 5 years. It doesn't have to be 5 years. The last contract, the current one that we're in, was 5 years. And this one that's proposed is also 5 years due to the strength and the success that Prairie Creek has had. And so we're proposing that it is at the max 5-year renewal. And so we went through that, and Simon and I, we worked together on that contract renewal piece. And so we went through the contract. A lot of the contract itself is very similar to what past contracts have been. So you'll notice that there's a lot of similar language, a lot of similar points, stances, that kind of thing. One thing worth noting is in Article 6, one of the changes worth noting is the enrollment. And so that's proposed to be phased in, 15 students over the 5-year term. And so it has a breakdown there on that in the contract itself. Right now, the conflict that we struggled with was Prairie Creek is very mission-driven, and they don't want to get too big. They want to stay true to their root. And so conversations have that is going to be in the contract, but it may not actually happen. Like, it just depends on where they're at, because Prairie Creek does want to maintain its small nature. So that, but worth noting that that's in there. Some of the other things that are also worth noting is we do have a significant, I should say a healthy population, as Corey just mentioned, that come from outside of the district to Prairie Creek that eventually make their way. And so we did do some of that data analysis as well. But Prairie Creek, just like everyone else, is experiencing those inflation costs and other things. And so we felt this was needed to keep that program financially viable. Are there any questions?
If I can just add a couple of things here. So just remind board members and the community that the Northfield School District is the last traditional public school that authorizes charter schools in Minnesota. We are the last traditional public school district standing. I just want to thank Daryl for the work that he and Simon, thank Simon for the work that they've done over the last several months on this contract. It's 80-some, the package you got is 80-some pages. It really is detailed, as you can see. Again, we've had a long and positive relationship with Prairie Creek. I want to thank Daryl as well for his work that to recertify us as an authorizer. So it's our turn this year to recertify as an authorizer. That's also a 5-year it's a contract, it's a 5-year renewal, and we just got our initial feedback on Friday, and we have some additional work to do to get that taken care of before May 22nd, but on the right tracks. Just thank Daryl for his work, and just appreciate the relationship and the commitment to public school choice that we've had in our community. Really appreciate what Prairie Creek has done, appreciative of the work that Simon has done over the years where the contract does not have to change a ton, right, because it has been successful. And we really appreciate that. And I do want to point out, we want to be transparent about the phase-in of the additional enrollment. The last time that Prairie Creek had an enrollment increase would have been in 2009, if I'm correct. Yep. So it's been a long time since they've asked for this. And, we know that they're very successful, and we're proud to be their authorizer. We know a number of other authorizers would be eager, to snap them up if we were not the authorizer. So I just want to provide a little bit of historical framework there, and then the last time that there was an enrollment increase allowed at Prairie Creek.
Board members, do you have any questions at this time or comments? Okay, Ben.
Not really a question, yeah, just a comment. And I would just echo Dr. Hillman and say, thank you. Having been a member of both of the boards, Prairie Creek and this one, I think it is a unique relationship and certainly one that takes a lot of effort, on behalf of the district, but also on behalf of Prairie Creek, right? You would still have to find an authorizer, but I think, when I was on the board, we always said we want that working relationship with the district because many families do certainly end up back in the district, and we gain families from the district or to the district as well through Prairie Creek in some instances. People that develop friendships and see the value of the education that they get when choosing Northfield schools as a possible option. So to me, it's wonderful that we've been able to maintain that, and I appreciate everybody's time and investment in making that happen. It's not always an easy thing to do, but I think, a relationship that's borne fruit and certainly one that I'm encouraged to see us continue.
Right, Corey.
Yeah, more of a comment than a question. Thank you, Daryl, for all the work on this. I know it's a heavy lift. Reading through 81 pages was a heavy lift as well, so I know putting it together must have been even harder. Simon, thanks for your process. Part of the process is as part of this as well. I have a lot of respect for you and Prairie Creek and the staff and the education you guys offer there. So I'm glad that we've been able to have this partnership for 20 plus years now to support education. Underscoring a point from the last presentation about, Randolph increasing one kid, it was 5.6% change. I just want to state that I'm supportive of the incremental increase for enrollment. I understand why. I mean, you guys carry a 40% plus fund balance, and that can change quickly with a few students dropping out mid-year. So I think it's behooves us to be supportive of that. And I think, as Ben just, mentioned, it usually comes back around to us, not always, that supporting you supports us. And I think it's good for the community at large. So have no issues with the work that's been done here, and just wanted to comment on that new piece.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Comment or question? Right. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Right. Item 6 is our consent agenda. As a reminder, there were some personnel items in the table file added to the consent grouping. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent grouping for separate consideration? All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent grouping?
Motion.
Thank you, Jenny. Second?
Second?
Okay. Thank you, Maggie. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. Our next item is items for individual action, and we have 3 items tonight, including 3 items, one of which is a resolution. So I'll take a motion first, and then we can have discussion before we go to voting. This first item, is there a motion to approve the revised 2025-26 Community Education Fund budget?
Moved.
Thank you, Corey. There's a second. Thank you, Ben. All right. Let's see. This budget revision was presented at the April 13th, 2026 board meeting. The revised 25-26 budget reflects revenues of $4,197,580 and expenditures of $4,377,321. Dr. Hillman, do you want to give any comments or?
I don't have any updated information since the last time.
Board members, do you have any questions or comments at this time? Right. Then we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. Item B is our proposed 26-27 budgets, all funds. Is there a motion to approve the proposed 26-27 budgets as presented for all funds?
So moved.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Thank you, Amy. Let's see. In the packet is the annual proposed budget book for 2026-27. The individual funds have been presented and reviewed in detail at school board meetings over the past few months. A summary of revenue and expenditures amounts are listed in the memorandum to this meeting, which is also published on our website. Board members, do you have any questions or comments on this item? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion passes. Next is our resolution. This is a resolution for termination and non-renewal of probationary licensed staff. Who will move?
Motion?
Thank you, Maggie.
Second.
Thank you, Corey. The board is requested to adopt the enclosed resolution related to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of the individuals listed in the memorandum, effective at the close of 2025-2026 school year. Is there any discussion at this point? Okay, then we will move to a roll call vote. Kelly?
Butler,
Aye.
Epstein,
Aye.
Gerowitz,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Quinnell,
Aye.
Gonzalez, George.
Aye. Okay, resolution passes. Thank you. Item 8 is our items for information. And first, we have our construction update number 26. Dr. Hellman?
Yes, the most significant highlight as part of this construction update is the continued work on the value engineering that Sal Bagley from Mold Architects and Engineers described at the last meeting. District team is Val Murdersdorf, myself, and Justin Robley. Nate Knutson is plugging in from time to time based on some of the technology components, but we've had, I think, 3 meetings over the last week. We have another one scheduled, I believe, yet later this week, and we continue to refine the value engineering components, and we anticipate, I think Sal will be here at the next meeting to be able to give you any additional updates. The key thing that I also want to point out is that we do have a schedule for the 15 bid packages that will be rebid. So we're going to follow a similar process to what we did in the first round for these 15 packets. Obviously, there are going to be some different approaches to the packages, as you've heard, splitting out, for example, product and labor as one example. And so those bids will be released in late May or in May. The bids will be due mid-June, and we plan to have a special board meeting on June 24th to adopt those bid packages. And so we're really hopeful that the real hard work that's been done over the last month or so, coupled with just a different timing, is going to give us better results than we had on our March bid day. So again, we continue to work diligently to make those decisions, and as soon as we have a refined list of the changes, we will certainly share those with the board and with the public.
Very good. Board members, do you have any questions for Dr. Hillman? Okay, Jenny?
Dr. Hillman, do you have a list of the 15 bid packages that will be rebid? Because I look through what we did receive, and I show only 13 packages.
Okay, I do not have them with me tonight, but I can certainly get those for board members. And that was, we were thinking of that. I'm gonna ask Val's got her computer up. She can help us with that.
I will double check for sure, but I know there's 2 packages that that have smaller dollar amounts that we're not bidding, we're just getting quotes for. And so I'm guessing that that's like they had the 15 and didn't think about those 2, but I'll double check for sure and we'll get you that data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Question or comment? Very good. Next is our superintendent search update. Board Clerk Maggie Epstein will give a final update on that superintendent search.
Sure, thank you. Hopefully I don't lose my voice. So we did have final round interviews here on Wednesday, April 29th. That was where we interviewed 2 candidates, Corey McIntyre and Tim Anderson. Following the interviews, Amy Jordan helped us by tabulating our responses to the candidates' questions. And we also received a tabulation of the feedback from our 15 invited district stakeholders. We discussed the strengths of each candidate, and then Amy and I shared feedback we had received from reference calls. After discussion, the board voted to offer the position to Tim Anderson, pending a successful contract negotiation and background check. Chair Claudia Gonzalez George and Vice Chair Corey Butler then served as board representatives during the contract negotiations. And at a special board meeting on Monday, May 4th, we voted to approve the contract with Dr. Anderson.
Excellent. Thank you for providing that. Board members, do you have anything to add? Okay, very good. Then we'll move on to item D, which is our later school start times update.
Yes, so just board members want to remind board members and the community that we'll have a work session this Thursday, 5:15 p.m. start time. And just want to frame how we're going to be discussing things on Thursday so board members have a chance to think through how they want to approach that. First, I want to point out that we have typically not live streamed or recorded work sessions. We've had more requests for that, over time because members of the public are interested in the work that you do. And so we had agreed that we would live stream and record that. I do want you to encourage, we don't have many work sessions on this board over time. Some districts, their boards have one business meeting a month and one work session a month. That is something I invite you to consider more formalizing the strategy as we move forward. One of the challenges when you are in a work session in the dais is it feels more formal. If you notice when we've done work sessions in the past, it's more of a committee style table. So I just want board members to think about that as you come to Thursday, because we want that discussion to be committee-like, right? Rather, it's a committee of the whole, right? Rather than more formal nature of the board meeting. So just put that in the way that you're thinking about Thursday. I've been talking with a number of other districts, as board members had asked, right, in terms of places that have changed their start times in the last several years. And what I've really learned is that I don't think there's a ton more data I'm going to be able to provide you than we've already provided you to make the determination for Northfield. The only thing that I can tell you for sure is that every district's journey to this is slightly different. And the way that they went about making the decision, if they have chosen to go to this, a later school start time for secondary students, is based on a number of different components. I'm gonna give you one example. Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose. I think a similar district in terms of distance from the Twin Cities. It's a little bit larger than we are. They have been doing this for approximately 10 years. And talking with their superintendent, they were able to do it at no increase in their budget. And the reason is very different transportation system. So when I was talking with Dr. Thielman from Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose, they have 44 bus routes compared to our 26, I think we have. And what they do is they still run a traditional two-tier system. So they have rural areas just like we do, and they run an elementary route and they run a secondary route, right? So if I live in Webster, by way of example, I'd have the elementary bus come and get my students, come to town, drop off at the elementaries. Then the secondary bus would come out and get students and bring them into town. Now they have more elementary schools than we do. I believe they have 6 elementary schools, but they were able to do this for no increase to their budget because they didn't need to change the number of bus routes. They just flipped them. Another example is Mankato, and a Big 9 conference school that recently made those changes as well. However, Mankato made a number of changes to their transportation budget. So they were doing some things with their elementary schools, they were changing some other things, and so they were able to make the change to the high school start times as a result of a larger overall change in their transportation approach. So what I'm saying to you is that I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to make it, it's really becoming more of a philosophical decision, right? We have the amount of money that we know that it would take to flip the times, right? We've heard that from Benjamin Buss. And then we know that there is a generally cost-neutral option. I'm never convinced everything is cost-neutral, but we have a cost-neutral option to push everything back by 40 minutes. So I just want you to have that. That's really has to be the core of our discussion, is that we've learned a lot, we've had a lot of data, and now I think we're at a point where it really comes down to your philosophy in terms of, are we willing to spend more dollars, right, to be able to make the change? Are we willing to consider some of the social capital pieces that we would have to do just to be able to push those times back? So those are the two of the key pieces. And then the third piece is the way that we had the discussion at the last meeting. I'm going to bring a proposed survey to you because this survey will obviously be done. You'll start to discuss this well after Dr. Anderson assumes this chair in July. And so I want to make sure that the questions that we're asking, I think the questions that we ask are going to be really informed based upon your discussion on Thursday night, right? If there's an appetite to think about spending additional resources to make that flip, that's something that we can certainly discuss. I've had at least one board member ask me, just out of curiosity, what would it cost to go to a true tier system? How much more would it be to actually run an elementary route and run a secondary route? We'll work to have some estimates for you with that as well for Thursday. But I want to walk through what is the data and the questions that will help you make a decision when that time comes. And so that's how I plan to use the time on Thursday, for us to be able to have that more philosophical discussion, which really comes down to, are we willing to spend money to do this or not? And if we don't, how do we handle things like potentially increased childcare needs in the morning before school? So that's what our plan is for Thursday, and just we invite the public to be able to come here and be with us, of course, and then of course you'll be able to watch it online. So I just thought it was good to give the board and the public just a preview of the discussion that we're having on Thursday.
Okay, excellent. Board members, do you have any questions for Dr. Hillman at this time? All right. Item E is our graduation dates. The ALC graduation is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 4th at the middle school auditorium. Northfield High School's graduation is scheduled for 2 p.m. on Sunday, June 7th at Memorial Field. Item 9 is our future meetings.
I think we missed the enrollment report.
Oh, I sure did skip over that. Would you like to provide?
I will just, we always show it, so I want to make sure that we show it like we normally do. So I got to get back to my appropriate tab here. Just give me one moment, please. There we go. So this is this month's enrollment report, and what you'll see is that very similar to last month, we actually increased overall by 1 student, so 16 less than projection at this point. And then I've also committed to showing you the class sizes at our elementary school. So this is the current class sizes at our 3 elementary schools. So that's the enrollment report. We'd be happy to take any questions that people have.
Okay, Ben.
I just had one question, and I apologize if I've missed it. My brain's been full, it feels like, for the last few months. But with the St. Olaf work that was done, did we get a summary, or is that in the works? Or
You have a summary. The summary's been shared in the board bulletin, but we are also working to be able to present that also either at the next meeting or in June.
Okay. A recent board bulletin, or
A little bit ago.
a little bit ago?
Yes, I can resend that to you.
I'll admit I missed that. No, that's fine. I can go back and find it, but I appreciate
problem.
that. Thank you.
Anyone else? No.
Can I follow up on the original question? So there are 15 outstanding packages, 13 of which will be bid. The 2 that won't be bid are lockers and elevators. Our understanding is we typically won't get bids on those, and so we just source those in another manner. But remaining to be rebid are general trades, masonry, structural steel, metal wall panels, framing and drywall, tile, resilient flooring and carpet, acoustical treatments and ceilings, painting, athletic and wood flooring, terrazzo, food service equipment, and the plumbing and HVAC, which is the best value process.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you for pointing that out.
No problem.
Item 9 is our future meetings. Those are Thursday, May 14th this week, our work session, starting at 5:15 in this boardroom. Tuesday, May 26th, Monday being Memorial Day, 6 p.m. regular meeting. Thursday, June 4th, ALC graduation at the middle school auditorium, 6 p.m. Sunday, June 7th, the high school graduation, Memorial Field. And Monday, June 8th, 6 p.m., a regular board meeting. That is all the business that we have tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Is there a second? Thank you, Jenny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.